My hands were trembling as I stared at the screen of his phone, the soft glow of it illuminating the dark bedroom. I had never intended to look through it. I had never been that kind of person. But something inside me, something quiet yet persistent, had pushed me to pick it up while he was in the shower. My heart pounded in my chest as I scrolled past the usual messages from his coworkers and friends. Then I saw it, an unfamiliar name followed by a string of hearts and a message that read, "Last night was perfect. I miss you already." My breath caught in my throat. My mind tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was nothing. But as I opened the thread and kept reading, each message cut deeper than the last. Compliments, plans, even memories they had shared. Memories I had never been part of. I felt the room spin around me, the air becoming thick and heavy. He had told me he loved me. He had looked me in the eyes and promised forever. But now, the truth stared back at me in cold, undeniable words. And I had only just begun to uncover it. We met on a rainy evening in October. I remember the way the drops fell gently against the cafe window, blurring the world outside into soft shapes and muted colors. I was tucked in a corner seat, reading a novel, when he asked if he could join me. The cafe was nearly full, and I looked up, startled at first, but then I saw the sincerity in his eyes. His voice was calm, warm, and respectful. There was a kindness in the way he asked, not pushy, not overly confident, just enough to make me feel comfortable. I nodded, and that simple yes would change the course of my life. His name was Daniel. From that first conversation, I felt a strange yet peaceful pull toward him. He asked thoughtful questions and listened with genuine interest. He told me about his job in architecture, his passion for design, and the cities he dreamed of visiting. I found myself opening up more than I usually did with strangers. By the end of that hour, it felt as though we had known each other much longer than just one evening. We began seeing each other regularly after that. There was never a moment of uncertainty with him in the beginning. He made it clear he wanted me in his life. He called when he said he would, showed up on time, and treated me with a kind of attentiveness I had rarely experienced before. On our third date, he brought me a book I had mentioned casually during our first conversation. It was such a small thing, but it meant so much. He paid attention. He remembered. Our relationship moved at a steady, natural pace. Within a few months, we were spending most nights together. He brought me flowers just because, cooked dinner on weekends, and left sweet notes on the bathroom mirror for me to find in the mornings. He made me feel seen in a way that felt rare. I trusted him. I trusted the way he looked at me, as if I was the only woman in the world. And when he told me he loved me, it was not during a big, dramatic moment. It was quiet, intimate, and real. We were watching a movie on his couch, and he turned to me, brushed the hair away from my face, and said it as if he had known it all along. I fell hard for him. There was no dramatic uncertainty, no endless games, no anxiety about where we stood. He introduced me to his family just after our first Christmas together. His mother embraced me warmly, and his younger sister and I spent the evening laughing over board games and wine. It felt like a dream, one of those rare instances where everything just seemed to align. My own family liked him. My mother called him a gentleman, and my father, a man not easily impressed, said he seemed steady and trustworthy. My friends, too, were supportive. Most of them loved how grounded he seemed. One friend, Alina, had a moment where she questioned how someone that perfect had suddenly come into my life, but she said it with a smile, and I took it as playful skepticism. I brushed off any doubts because I wanted so badly for it all to be true. We traveled together. Paris in the spring, where he held my hand as we stood beneath the Eiffel Tower. Mexico in the summer, where we laughed on the beach and drank margaritas until sunset. He made me feel alive. He made me feel loved. Our one-year anniversary was simple but perfect. A rooftop dinner, candles, his voice telling me how lucky he was to have found me. I had never been loved like that before, or so I believed. Looking back, there were signs. Little things I chose to ignore. He would get jumpy when his phone buzzed at odd hours. He sometimes claimed to be too tired for date nights, even though I could hear excitement in his voice when he talked to others. Once he said he had to travel for work, but I found it odd that he never told me which city. I asked, and he gave a vague answer. But I did not push. I trusted him. There were times I felt something tugging at the edges of my certainty. A gut feeling. A whisper in the back of my mind. Once, I saw a message flash on his phone, but he swiped it away before I could read it. He said it was just spam. I believed him. Another time, I found an unfamiliar bracelet in his drawer. He said it belonged to his sister, that she had left it there during a visit. It seemed strange, but again, I let it go. Love has a way of dulling suspicion when you want so badly to believe the best in someone. I told myself he was faithful, that the bond we had was real, that he would never risk it. He had said all the right things, done all the right things. I clung to the moments that felt magical, to the memories we built. When doubts arose, I smothered them with affection. I told myself that love required trust, and I was not about to let fear ruin what we had. Every time he looked into my eyes and said he loved me, I felt safe. I felt chosen. I did not know then that I was choosing to see only what I wanted to believe. I did not know that beneath the surface of our perfect love story, something else was hiding, something that would shatter everything I thought we were. The man I trusted, the man who made me feel like I was his whole world, was building another world behind my back. And I would not discover that truth until much later, when the illusion had already wrapped itself around my heart too tightly to let go without breaking something inside me. At first, the changes were small, almost unnoticeable. It was easy to believe they were nothing more than the natural shifts that come with time. Relationships settle. Passion evolves. People get busy. That was what I told myself the first time he pulled away when I reached for his hand on the couch. He was staring at his phone, and when I touched him, he jumped slightly and put the device face down on the coffee table. I laughed it off. He smiled and said he had just been reading a stressful email from work. He said he did not want to burden me with the details. Soon after, he began working later. He used to call on his way home, always eager to hear my voice. But now, more often than not, I was the one calling, and he would answer with rushed words and background noise that never quite made sense. He said he had meetings, deadlines, projects that kept piling up. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to be the understanding girlfriend who supported his ambition. But there was a growing unease inside me that no amount of logic could quiet. He stopped staying over as often. Before, it had been rare for us to spend a night apart. Now, entire weekends would pass with only a few short texts. When I asked if something was wrong, he kissed my forehead and said I was imagining things. He told me he was just tired, just busy, just trying to get through a difficult quarter at work. I nodded. I told myself I was being clingy. I reminded myself how loving he had always been. But there was a quiet fear building in the spaces between his words. He became guarded with his phone. He never used to care if it was near me, never hesitated to hand it over when I asked to look something up or check the time. Now he kept it in his pocket or face down on any surface. He turned off his notifications. Once, I saw him typing quickly and then locking the screen the moment I entered the room. He smiled at me, a practiced, casual smile, and said he had been replying to an email. I nodded again. But something felt off. I began to notice other things too. His scent would sometimes be different when he came over, an unfamiliar perfume that lingered too long. He said it was from the office, that someone had walked past him wearing something strong. I tried to believe it. I wanted to believe it. I reminded myself of all the memories we had made, of the way he had once looked at me like I was the only woman in the world. But the cracks were forming, no matter how tightly I held things together. He canceled plans at the last minute, claiming exhaustion or unexpected work events. Our conversations grew shallow. I would ask about his day, and he would give me a one-word answer, then change the subject. He no longer asked about mine. When I tried to talk about how I was feeling, he would sigh and say I was being dramatic. He told me he loved me, that I needed to stop overthinking, that I was making problems where there were none. And because I loved him, I doubted myself instead. One night, we were lying in bed, and he fell asleep with his phone still in his hand. I watched him breathe slowly, his face soft in the darkness. My heart was racing. I knew I should not do it. I had never violated his privacy before. But something inside me had reached its limit. I gently lifted the phone from his hand, and just as I turned on the screen, he stirred. His eyes opened instantly, as if he had never truly been asleep. He sat up and took the phone from me quickly, asking what I was doing. I felt exposed, like a thief caught in the act. I told him I had been checking the time. He stared at me for a long moment before forcing a chuckle and lying back down. He said he was just tired, that he had been working too much, that he was sorry if he had seemed distant. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe the man I had loved for so long was still the same man beside me in that bed. But something had changed. I could feel it. There were moments when I almost convinced myself that everything would be fine, that the stress would pass, that we would find our way back to what we had. He still said he loved me. He still kissed me before he left for work. But his eyes no longer lingered on mine the way they used to. His embrace no longer felt like a place of safety. It felt like a habit. My intuition was screaming, but I silenced it again and again. I thought if I just gave him space, if I just showed him enough love, he would come back to me fully. But love should not feel like trying to hold onto someone who is already halfway out the door. It should not feel like begging to be seen by someone who used to see everything in you. Still, I clung to the hope that I was wrong. That maybe I really was just imagining things. Maybe stress could make someone pull away. Maybe there was a reason he was so secretive, a reason that had nothing to do with betrayal. But deep down, I knew. I felt the truth in every cancelled plan, every distracted glance, every time he looked at his phone and smiled at something I was not a part of. I had loved him with everything I had. I had trusted him with my whole heart. And slowly, painfully, I was beginning to realize that the man I had given that heart to was slipping further away with each passing day. It happened on a Thursday night. The kind of night that felt empty before anything even happened. He had come over late, said he had a headache, said he was too tired to talk much, and collapsed onto the couch with his phone in hand. I made him tea, placed a blanket over him, and sat nearby, pretending to scroll through my own phone while watching him from the corner of my eye. He was texting someone, his thumbs moving quickly, a faint smile on his face that he did not even realize he had. I asked him who he was talking to, and he barely looked up when he said it was work stuff. When he finally dozed off, his phone slipped from his fingers. It landed between the couch cushions, half hidden. I sat there, frozen, the silence screaming around me. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out the hum of the refrigerator and the ticking clock. I stared at that phone like it was some forbidden artifact, a portal to truth or destruction. My hand moved before my mind could stop it. I picked it up. The screen lit up. No password. A small part of me hoped I would find nothing but work emails, messages from colleagues, maybe group chats with old friends. But the first thing I saw was a message preview that read, "Miss you already, babe." I opened the messaging app. What followed felt like a slow, suffocating descent into a nightmare. Her name was Hannah. There were dozens of messages exchanged in just the past few days. She sent him photos, some innocent, some intimate, and he responded with heart emojis, with words he used to say to me. He told her he could not wait to see her again. He called her beautiful. He asked if she was still wearing the perfume he liked. I recognized that perfume. It was the one I had smelled on him more than once. I kept scrolling. There was another thread. And another. Different names. Different women. One message asked if he had fun last night. Another said she hated that he had to leave so early. One chat had screenshots from a dating app. He was active. Recently active. Using photos I had taken of him during our weekend trips. He had cropped me out. I stared at the screen as my hands began to tremble. My vision blurred. It was like my body could not contain the truth it had just absorbed. I tried to breathe, but my chest was tight, as if something heavy had settled on top of me. My ears rang. I sat there for minutes, maybe more, completely still while the world fell apart in my hands. My mind searched for explanations. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was old. Maybe someone else had used his phone. But no. The messages were recent. The tone was warm, intimate, familiar. He had said things to them that he had not said to me in months. He had made plans. Promises. He had told one woman that he wished he could fall asleep with her every night. I put the phone down and stood up. My knees felt weak, as if they could not carry the weight of this betrayal. I walked into the kitchen, unsure of what I was doing. I needed to move. I needed air. I needed something to make this moment feel less real. He stirred on the couch, groggy, confused. I turned to him and asked, very calmly, who Hannah was. His eyes opened fully now, alert. What are you talking about? I repeated the question, this time holding the phone in my hand. His face changed. Panic. Then anger. Then control. He stood up and reached for the phone, but I pulled it back. Why are you going through my phone? He asked sharply, as if I were the one who had done something wrong. Who are these women? I asked again, my voice breaking despite my best efforts to stay calm. They are just friends, he said, too quickly. You are taking it all out of context. You do not understand. I understand enough, I said. I read what you said. I saw the pictures. Do you think I am that blind? He ran his hand through his hair, pacing. This is crazy. You should not have gone through my phone. And you should not be sleeping with other women, I snapped, the pain in my chest turning to rage. He paused. His silence said more than any words could. Then he tried to twist it. He told me I had become distant, cold, difficult. He said our relationship had not been the same, that he had felt neglected. As if that justified what he had done. As if his betrayal was somehow my fault. I listened to his excuses, each one more absurd than the last. He said the messages meant nothing. He said he never stopped loving me. He said he had made a mistake. But it was not a mistake. It was a pattern. A choice. A series of lies carefully crafted over weeks, months, maybe longer. It was the late nights, the perfume, the secrecy, the disappearing. It was every time he looked me in the eye and said he loved me while holding someone else in his arms. I stood there, feeling every memory we had built together crack and splinter. The nights we stayed up talking, the vacations we planned, the promises we made, they all shattered in the face of this truth. I thought I knew him. I thought I mattered. I thought we were real. But the phone in my hand told a different story. He begged me not to leave. He said he would stop. He said it was meaningless, that I was the only one he truly cared about. But those words were empty now. I had read too much, seen too much, felt too much. I walked past him, the phone still in my hand, and went into the bedroom. I sat on the edge of the bed, shaking. He followed me in, still pleading, still trying to fix what he had broken with lies and charm. But there was no going back. I could not unsee what I had seen. I could not unknow what I now knew. The man who had held me, kissed me, told me he loved me, he had been living a lie. And I had been loving a ghost. I left that night with nothing but my purse, my car keys, and a hollow silence sitting in my chest. He tried to stop me, stood in the doorway like he could hold me there with words alone, but I pushed past him. My hands were trembling so badly that I struggled to unlock my car door. Once inside, I sat with my hands gripping the steering wheel, unable to start the engine. My mind was racing, but my body felt numb. I was not even sure where I was going. I just knew I could not stay. I drove to my friend Leah's house. She was the only person I could think of who would open the door at that hour and not ask too many questions. When she saw my face, she did not say a word. She simply pulled me inside and held me while I cried into her shoulder. My sobs were quiet, broken, the kind that felt like they came from a part of me I did not know existed. Leah sat with me on the couch, wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, and let me unravel without pressure. That night, sleep was impossible. I lay on her couch staring at the ceiling, the images from his phone playing over and over in my mind like a cruel movie. Every sweet word he had spoken to me now rang false. Every moment we had shared felt corrupted. I remembered our anniversary dinner just a few weeks ago, when he gave me a necklace and told me I was the love of his life. I remembered him holding my hand at the beach, smiling at me like I was his entire world. And now I had to question whether he had already texted someone else before he looked into my eyes. The following days were a blur of emotions: grief, anger, confusion, heartbreak. I called off work and stayed with Leah. I did not feel ready to face anyone. He called me constantly. He sent messages filled with apologies, excuses, desperate pleas for forgiveness. He showed up at Leah's door with flowers and tearful eyes, begging for just 5 minutes to explain. I refused to come out. I listened from behind the closed door as he poured out his regret. I made a mistake, he said. I never stopped loving you. I was stupid. Please, just talk to me. But I had already heard all I needed to. His mistake was not a single moment of weakness. It was a long, calculated series of choices. Every time he chose to lie, every time he silenced my instincts with a kiss or a kind word, he deepened the betrayal. Leah stayed by my side like a shield. She reminded me of the woman I was before him. She reminded me that I had dreams and strength long before I fell in love with a man who could not be honest. Still, my heart fought the truth. There were moments I considered going back. There were moments I missed him so deeply it made me physically ache. Love does not disappear just because it has been broken. One afternoon, I went back to our apartment while he was at work. I needed to gather my things. As I packed my clothes into bags, I moved through the space slowly, like I was walking through a museum of someone else's life. Our framed photos still hung on the walls. The mug I always used for coffee sat in the sink. His cologne lingered in the air. It was all so familiar and yet entirely foreign. In the bedroom, I found an old letter I had written him months earlier. It was filled with words of love, dreams of our future, hopes for a life we would build together. I sat on the edge of the bed and read it aloud to myself, each word now sounding like a lie I had told without knowing. I folded it slowly and placed it in my bag, a reminder of the version of myself who had believed. He came home while I was still there. We stood in the living room, facing each other with miles of silence between us. He asked me if we could start over. He said he would go to therapy, delete every app, change his number, do whatever it took. He promised he had ended things with the others. I looked into his eyes, the same eyes I had once trusted more than anything, and I said nothing. I just stared until the silence said everything I could not. Leaving was not easy. There were days I questioned myself. Nights I curled up in bed and missed the sound of his voice, the way his arms had felt around me. But I stayed away. I stayed strong. I started going on walks again. I cooked for myself. I called friends I had not spoken to in months. Slowly, I began to remember who I was without him. I was someone who deserved honesty. I was someone who loved deeply and gave without condition. I was not perfect, but I had never lied. I had never broken someone's heart with careless hands. There was a day when I looked at my reflection and saw something new. I saw a woman who had walked through betrayal and survived it. I saw someone who had chosen herself. He kept reaching out for a while, but eventually the messages stopped. The flowers stopped. The door he had shattered was one he could not rebuild with gestures and apologies. I did not respond to his last message. I had nothing left to say. Healing did not come all at once. It came in pieces. It came in moments, laughing with Leah, watching the sunset alone, waking up without crying. It came when I realized I was not broken, only bruised. I started writing again. I started dreaming again. I allowed myself to imagine a future that did not include him. I allowed myself to believe in love again, not the kind that hides in secret messages and broken promises, but the kind that stands in the light. I did not need him to see my worth anymore. I saw it myself. I had found my voice again. And this time, I would never let it be silenced. It has been a year now. A full year since that night I stood shaking in my friend's doorway with tears soaking my blouse and my heart shattered into pieces I never thought I would gather again. But time, as it turns out, is a quiet sculptor. It has softened the sharpest edges, smoothed the pain into memories, and left behind something I never expected to find again, myself. I live in a different place now. A small apartment with large windows that fill with sunlight every morning. The walls are covered in things I love, art I picked out myself, books that once comforted me, plants that I have kept alive longer than I thought I could. My space reflects who I am, not who I tried to become for someone else. It is quiet here, but it is peaceful. There is no tension when a phone buzzes, no gut-clenching anxiety when a plan changes, no second-guessing whether someone means the words they say. There is just me, and that is enough. In the quiet hours of the evening, I often sit on the balcony and watch the sky shift into different shades of pink and gold. That used to be our favorite time of day, and for a while, I could not look at a sunset without hearing his voice. But now, the sunsets belong to me again. They do not remind me of what I lost. They remind me of what I reclaimed. When I think about him now, I do not feel anger. I do not feel longing. What I feel is a gentle detachment, as if remembering a book I once read that no longer fits the person I have become. I do not wonder why he did it anymore. I know why. Some people love only the reflection of themselves they see in another person. When that reflection becomes too real, too complicated, they turn away. He did not love me. He loved the way I made him feel. And that is not love at all. I have learned that love is not supposed to make you question your worth. It is not supposed to make you doubt your instincts or silence your voice. Love is supposed to feel like coming home, not walking on glass. It is supposed to open you, not close you. Real love is built on truth, not excuses. On presence, not distractions. On respect, not manipulation. I have also learned how strong I am. That strength is not always loud. Sometimes, it is waking up in the morning when all you want to do is disappear. Sometimes, it is saying no to the person your heart still whispers about in the dark. Sometimes, it is letting go of a future you once planned with your whole soul and choosing one that you build on your own. People ask me if I have forgiven him. I do not know if forgiveness is the right word. What I have done is release him. I have let go of the pain, the questions, the need for closure that he never gave me. I stopped needing him to admit what he did or apologize the right way. I no longer need anything from him. That is the truest form of freedom I have ever known. There is someone new in my life. It began quietly, as friendship, as laughter over coffee and long conversations about everything and nothing. He does not try to dazzle me with promises. He simply shows up, again and again. His phone is never turned away. His eyes never drift when I speak. He listens. He is present. He is kind. I am still learning how to trust again, but he does not rush me. He understands that love is not a race. It is a steady walk toward one another, step by step. But even if there was no one new, I would still feel whole. That is the real victory. I am no longer waiting for someone else to make me feel loved. I give that love to myself now. I speak gently to myself on hard days. I celebrate my own wins. I take myself out for dinner, dance in the kitchen, laugh out loud at movies. I have learned how to be my own companion, how to sit with my own thoughts and not run from them. There are still moments, sometimes, when the past knocks softly on the door. A song will play that we once danced to, or I will pass by a place we visited together. For a second, my heart will clench, and I will remember what it felt like to believe in something that was never real. But then I breathe, and I remember who I am now. I am not the woman who begged to be chosen. I am not the woman who believed his lies just to avoid loneliness. I am not the woman who mistook crumbs for a feast. I am wiser now. I ask questions I once feared the answers to. I listen to my intuition. I protect my peace like it is sacred because it is. I have boundaries, not walls. I am open, but not naive. I still believe in love, deeply. But I no longer believe that love is worth sacrificing my dignity for. I no longer believe that pain is proof of passion. I know now that real love feels safe. I look back on that version of myself, the one who waited for him to come home, who cried herself to sleep, who questioned her own mind because someone she loved told her she was imagining things. I want to hold her. I want to tell her she will make it out. That she will rise from that floor stronger than ever. That she will learn to love again, starting with herself. He once said he loved me. He said it 1,000 times. He wrote it in cards, whispered it in my ear, swore by it under the stars. But love is not what you say. It is what you do. It is who you are when no one is watching. And his actions told the real story. His phone told the truth. His choices wrote the ending. He said he loved me, but love does not live in secrecy. Love does not hide behind a locked screen. Love does not lie. And I will never again mistake a sweet lie for the truth. Now I walk forward, not with bitterness, but with clarity. I carry everything I have learned in my heart like a compass. I trust myself. I trust my voice. I trust my heart to know what is real. He said he loved me, but love is not a lie. And I will never doubt myself again.